Good afternoon. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely as we await the First Lady of the United States to give a statement at the White House. That will be at the bottom of the hour, 2:30 Eastern on this Thursday, April 9th, as we enter into Masters Weekend, a tradition unlike any other. So much happening domestically and abroad, including Operation Epic Fury. We are joined by one of our finest sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the great Michael Kunzler, co-owner of All Family Pharmacy. Michael, one thing about this war in Iran, we're at day 39 at this point, is that causing any supply chain issues, especially in regards to life-saving pharmaceuticals right here at home?
Yeah, so from what we understand, is that it is and is going to, as long as the war continues. So if it comes to a halt within the next 30 days, we shouldn't have too much of a disruption at all. But from our understanding, just speaking with our wholesalers, is it's already causing some sort of problems. We have about 10, 15 very popular medications that are on back order. Probably the number one being progesterone, and it's specifically the 100 milligram capsule, which is the most popular of the progesterones for women. So it is becoming a little bit of an issue as time goes on. It's just we need this war to stop, and that way the supply chain is not disrupted.
And how does it happen specifically? Because I'm familiar more with the oil and gas surrounding it, that 80% of the Asian commodities coming through that Strait of Hormuz, roughly around 12 to 13% for Europe, not so much the United States, now that we've opened up so many of our reserves under the Trump administration. But you're telling us as well that that does affect the pharmaceutical industry.
Yeah, because 80% of the world's drugs come from India or China, specifically the United States. We rely on them for pharmaceuticals. And that's just the nitty gritty of it. That's, nobody likes to hear that. But unfortunately, until the United States government steps up to the plate so that we could start manufacturing medications here, we have to rely on those countries for a lot of stuff. And those are specifically maintenance drugs, emergency drugs, you name it. Again, packaging as well, plastics. All of that stuff. The manufacturers don't have the packaging tools. And so, that causes supply chain issues. And then the cost of fuel. If the cost of fuel goes up, in pharmaceuticals, transportation alone is going to cause an issue for us. And it's going to cause the pricing to go up, which we're hoping it's not. But I have two wholesalers that I work with that provide us the APIs, which are pure powders of a medication. We purchase them for compounding medications specific to patients. They've already increased our prices and sent out a notice that a lot of the APIs and the fillers, the prices are going up right now. And that probably has to do with fuel charges going through the roof, as well as packaging, supply shortages. As demand goes up and supply goes down, the price goes up. And that's just an unfortunate thing here in America, but that's the way it is. We bulk up to try to keep our pricing down. We're just hoping that all of our wholesalers don't follow suit. It's only a few of the bad apples. And so we're going to continue to keep our prices at the same. We have no interest in increasing them, just as long as these companies don't do this to us.
And you could get those great discounts right now at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, code RSBN10, that is RSBN10 for 10% off site-wide. Now, the one thing about peptides, Michael, why is RFK Jr., the Health and Human Services Secretary, pushing the FDA to allow pharmacies to compound, and why does nobody want to touch these peptides right now?
So nobody wants to touch it because it's not on the F503A bulk list, meaning that a 503A pharmacy like ourselves cannot compound it. It restricts us. The regulators don't want us touching it. Now, there are some trials. They're not very big, but nobody wants to put this through trials because there's no money involved for them. There's no greed. No manufacturer out there that's part of Big Pharma can patent a peptide because it's an amino acid chain. It's naturally derived from our bodies. It cannot patent it. So there is no money. So why would they do the trial? To share the profits with others? So that's an unfortunate thing. But again, if RFK Jr. passes this to get it out of a Schedule II, meaning it's a restricted item for us to compound, and they allow us to compound these peptides, it's going to get rid of the black market. The black market's China. And they're making millions, if not billions. They've already estimated. I think an article came out that it was $14 billion industry last year alone, peptides. And so imagine taking that from China, putting that into United States pharmacy companies, compounders, doctors, medical staff, people who can use cheaper versions and safer versions of our medicine that derive from our own body and allow us to safely take it, allow us to safely prescribe it, design these protocols that could help people. People right now are buying it online from overseas, and they're buying it blindly. They're not knowing what's in it. They're not knowing the purity levels of it, what heavy metals are in it. Also, at the same time, they don't know the protocols. They don't know how much to take. Are they taking too little? Are they taking too much? They're putting themselves at risk because of this. If the FDA gets rid of this Schedule II and allows medical providers like my physicians, medical providers like my pharmacists to guide Americans into taking this in a safe and effective way, you get rid of the black market. There's no more China. It's all United States manufacturers. Everything's made here, everything's tested here, and then we supply it to our own people. And that's what we deserve.
Sounds like common sense and something that maybe Congress can take up as they get off of their Easter recess, hopefully sooner rather than later. It must be nice to have a couple of weeks off for this wonderful holiday. Now, this might be something addressed as well with the president and President Xi Jinping of China as they meet come the middle of May, May 14th and 15th next month. Should have many topics on the table, including these very global supply chain issues and also the peptides.
Yeah, we're hoping that, like I said, this war ends. We stop the supply chain disruptions, because the main thing that we're worried about is pharmaceuticals, maintenance drugs, emergency medications. These things are not felt yet. Like we've gone over before, it takes 3 to 6 months for the supply chains to cause disruptions here in the United States, because our wholesalers carry 6 months supply. We carry roughly about a month or two supply. It puts us in a bad position to start stocking up on medications, because the last thing we want to do as a pharmacy is take away from those who really need it the most. We want people to come to us to purchase a medication that they need, that they're going to use. And so we do encourage people to stock up for that reason, because if the supply chain is hit, CVS is going to be out of stock. Walmart's going to be out of stock. Walgreens is going to be out of stock. That's just the way it goes. They're not thinking about you. They're thinking about profits. So they keep as little medication on hand as possible, because they only care about profit margins. Whereas I work with my pharmacist directly to bulk up on medications to keep enough for a couple months supply so that we can continue to supply patients. My mindset is not about percentages of profit. It's about helping the American people and giving them an opportunity to stock up on cheap generic drugs that they could use 3, 6, 9, 12 months down the line. And again, if the supply chain disruption doesn't happen in 2, 3 months from now, guess what? You have your maintenance drugs for the rest of the year. It's peace of mind. You don't have to worry.
And you have 400 plus options at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. For that stocking up right now, Michael, what would you recommend as part of your off-label generics that will be good to protect people in case there is a mass emergency or they cannot get to anything down the street given what's happening in the world?
Yeah, so everybody knows what maintenance medication they're on, whether it's a blood pressure, a cholesterol, a blood thinner, a thyroid drug, whatever the case may be. I always suggest having at least 3 to 6 months on hand at the very minimum. That'll keep a peace of mind. It costs maybe, depending upon the drug, it could cost anywhere from $30 to $50 to have up to 6 months supply on hand of cheap generic maintenance medications. Outside of that, it's always good to have an antibiotic. If you have or you suffer from allergies, it's good to have rescue inhalers, allergy medications, nasal sprays. If you're someone who likes to travel, some travel medications, Zofran, antibiotics, nasal sprays as well, ibuprofen 800 milligrams. It's depending upon the lifestyle, would depend on what you need, but we're always going to suggest to keep on hand at least 3 to 6 months, just in case something happens, just in case this war is prolonged. We can't trust Iran. We've never trusted them, and we should never trust them. But again, if this war ends tomorrow, it's great for everybody. If you do stock up on the medications, it's more of a peace of mind factor that you're going to be safe for the next 6 months.
Yes, they know they have leverage in nearly half a century of this regime, but thank God for good outlets like yours, Michael, that are looking out for the American people at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN10 right now. Get 10% off site-wide. Michael Kunzler, the co-owner, thank you for joining us today to dive into the supply chain issues, these peptides, and just stocking up now in the spring season.
Yeah, thank you.
And as we cover the latest from the Trump White House, inside and outside of the Beltway, we have a special treat today, this Easter week. And also with Masters Weekend now approaching, round one underway, we'll have the First Lady of the United States to give remarks at the White House. Did you know her legislation, the Take It Down Act, now has one conviction on hand, someone out of Columbus, Ohio, if memory serving me correctly. I will double check that for the broadcast today. But we have a nice extended afternoon with you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, not only to go over our great sponsors, but also to showcase what is happening now in the middle of this ceasefire. And as Michael was mentioning earlier with the supply chain issues, with that question of peptides, my goodness, 80% of our drugs and pharmaceuticals coming from India and China, and just solely reliant upon the plastics and the packaging. Perhaps you should call your congressman or senator today and talk about legislation for protecting the American people when it comes to things like right to try, most favored nation status, nation of origin when it comes to meat packaging. That's been a back and forth issue that we've seen over the course of the last decade, with at times Republicans and Democrats, that uniparty, joining together to get rid of name of origin and where the food is coming from. So many issues to focus on as we are committed to making America healthy again. One of the clips I wanted to show you today, Ivanka Trump. We know that this family, really amazing. Even Hillary Clinton mentioned it in the 2016 campaign. One thing she admires about Donald Trump, his children, how they have surrounded him, how they have been successful in their own right, and how they treat other people. Ivanka touching on what it was like growing up as a Trump with cut number 3.
You know, her and my father were actively building their life and pursuing their passions. And for my mom, much like me today, you know, one of her creative expressions came in the form of design and architecture. She wasn't absent, and you know, neither was my father. So he was filled a more typical of that generation male role, where he was less present. But there was never a doubt in my mind that I was his top priority and that he was available to me. So I used to call him from the payphone at Chapin. It was in a broom closet, and never once did he not pick up. And sometimes his office would be filled with people he'd be in the middle of a deal or a negotiation or some politician or whatever it was. And he'd always put me on speakerphone and then start the conversation by telling everyone how I got great grades. And I'd start to blush. But he always picked up.
Did you
They
miss
weren't
him?
absent. Did I what?
Miss him?
No, because I didn't feel like he was absent.
And with your health in order to be stocked up with All Family Pharmacy, a great sponsor here, we also think about your financial future, tax-sheltered IRAs, gold, silver, all of that really important when it comes to diversification. So you can text Trump right now to 989898. We are joined by Birch Gold spokesperson Philip Patrick. Thank you for joining us on the show, sir, as a lot going on right now between the Iran war, mixed economic signals, and where does the economy not only stand today, but can it feel unstable as we go into the future?
Yeah, great question. I mean, right now we're seeing multiple pressure points hit at once, and they're all tying back to the same issue. We have right now a financial system that's running on debt. Of course, we have huge volatility in oil prices now, again, due to Middle East tension, which feeds directly into inflation. And at the same time, in the background, we've got government borrowing exploding. We're issuing something like $9 billion in new debt every single day. Layer on now significant market volatility, and people start to get confused. They expect markets to instantly reflect reality, but they don't. So, you know, short-term markets move based on where money's flowing, and right now that's into the US dollar for liquidity. But if you pull the microscope out, we realize that risks are rising. We've got higher energy costs, we've got more debt and more uncertainty, and that just puts more pressure on this debt-based system. So I think we got some trouble on the horizon.
Granted, much debt, much financial instability, as you're mentioning there, Philip. Do you think that the financial system is more fragile now than it was, say, a decade or two ago?
Yes, absolutely. And I think the warning signs are building quietly. The administration is doing an incredibly good job in trying to clear up a disastrous mess. I mean, what this administration inherited economically was unfathomable. Right now, we're seeing issues even in the private credit market, which is huge. This is a $2 trillion market making loans that banks won't typically touch. We saw that sector explode when interest rates were near zero. Now these same loans are having to get refinanced at much higher interest rates, and we're starting to see liquidity stress. This typically isn't a good sign for the broader economy. If this sector starts to fail, it doesn't get contained there, it moves into the broadened banking sector. It's exactly what we saw in 2008 with those subprime loans, things that started on the peripheries but affected the entire economy. Like I said, layer onto that today's economic environment. We've got high oil prices, we've got massive federal borrowing, and I think the combination makes this a really, really tough climb.
You know, I learned a lot from that movie, The Big Short, just watching that. Very entertaining, but also frightening. As I look at my own lifetime, it's the average now. I'm approaching 40 very soon, and that is the average age of a first-time home buyer in America. But going back to the time when I was in elementary school to middle school, even high school, that age a lot younger. So it's hard to watch as millennials, Gen Z approach as the two largest generations in this country, trying to really get that American dream, but it seems somewhat out of reach. Let's stick with the theme of debt. What's going on with the Fed and the White House? Will we have a new chairman soon? Because it seems as if too late Jerome Powell just keeps hanging on.
He keeps hanging on, and he's not going to go out quietly. But I think we will see a new Fed chair for sure. It's going to be a tough job, no matter who has it. What we're seeing now is just a clash of priorities between the Federal Reserve and, of course, the White House, not necessarily personalities. Listen, the White House rightly is focused on economic growth and managing the cost of the national debt. Lower rates make both of those things much easier. The Fed, though, has different priorities. They're focused on inflation control. And right now, inflation risks are rising again. We've got oil prices shooting up, which is the most inflationary. Then we got this curveball, which was an extremely strong and far above expectations jobs report. Normally, obviously, that is good news, but in this environment, it puts the Fed in a tough position and it makes rate cuts much less likely, especially if we factor in higher energy prices. So traders now are pricing in higher rates for longer, regardless of who's running the Fed, even after Powell is done. And the reality is, whoever does it, they've got to deal with a big problem, right? The Treasury Department have to refinance the debt every single day. And that's where this tension is coming from. Who absorbs the cost, whether it's the Fed or the Treasury? But the reality is it's a rough job.
And nothing new in our 250-year history, as the framers really shaped, along with Alexander Hamilton, that New York banking system. And that question of, do you have that big, large Federal Reserve? Do you have a centralized government? Then boiled over with Andrew Jackson's time as he took on with a new Democrat Party, the New England Republicans, who wanted that banking system to remain intact. So to your point, Philip, it's very wise that sometimes it's not personalities, but rather the philosophies and the benefit to society that will come to clash with a runaway train versus an immovable object. Now, a lot of people are quite concerned right now about how that affects them. And we know only one president, as I mentioned, Andrew Jackson, was able to rid America of that debt. At the time, $58 million in the 19th century, would have been billions now. But now it seems as if with President Trump's living predecessors, they skyrocketed this national debt unlike any of the rest over the course of the last 250 years. So what is the takeaway for the American people as they try to secure their financial future?
It's great. Look, you mentioned a little bit earlier about how the American dream is disappearing, right? The average person can no longer afford the average home. That is a disaster. And, we talk about how we've amassed debt, the Federal Reserve's role, and they played a big part in this, in sort of funneling wealth from the middle class of America up to the top 1%. We're seeing it today, huge wealth disparity. In the process, we've amassed a huge amount of debt, and we're trapped in this. Well, we're in a trap, I should say, in the sense that we're having to print money to service debt liabilities. Longer term, it does one thing unavoidably, which is devalue currency, right? The ability to keep pace with inflation and a falling dollar, that's going to be very important in the months and years and decades ahead. And I think anybody sitting in dollar-denominated assets is seeing their buying power disappear every single day. And that's where physical precious metals come in. They cannot disappear on a keystroke. They cannot be inflated away, and they're designed to grow along with the cost of living and hedge dollar decline. And I think given the almost unsolvable nature of our debt problem today, I think it is prudent to have a portion of our retirements hedging longer term currency devaluation. And that's what I think everybody should be looking at.
Yes, a tax-sheltered IRA from Birch Gold Group, the best in the business, because gold going up 700% in the last 2 decades as a result of a falling dollar. Then add all the crypto into it, uncertainty with property acquisition, and also the ability to even own. We've become a nation of renters. The administration, to your point, Philip, trying to fix that with the big corporations buying up single-family homes. We've seen the president's executive order, perhaps congressional action in the future to that. But it seems as if that's really the only way to diversify is through gold, silver, and precious metals with the Birch Gold Group.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. And in climates like this, the options are so limited. It's not a case of taking every penny one has and moving it into any basket, whatever that is. But I think with so much uncertainty on the horizon, diversification is key. And like I said, when currency, inflation, deficits are one of the biggest concern, central banks, institutions, they turn to gold, as they're doing in record quantities today. And what applies to them applies to us.
And I found it fascinating, too, that JP Morgan Chase buying up silver, and again, all these Federal Reserves across the world, these respective nations buying up gold for their commodities and to have just in case anything gets in trouble. So, Philip Patrick, thank you for joining us from the Birch Gold Group. We really appreciate your perspective, your expertise, as you could do right now. Text Trump to 989898. Get that free gold guide and make sure you know how to have that tax-sheltered IRA perspective. Before we let you go, how does Birch Gold Group even address this? Because it's not one size fits all. I think a lot of people out there think, oh, that's, this is the same gimmick. No, this is actually tangible metals that can save the day.
Oh, absolutely. We deal only with physical, tangible metals, whether it's in a retirement account and tax deferred or in people's safes or at home. We deal with the tangible asset. It's that simple. For us, education is everything. We're not here to push, gold at people. We're here to educate people. We have a lot of literature for them to read and understand what's happening in the broader economy, because we feel that an educated customer can make the right decisions for themselves. So that's all we ask. Get the free information, read through it. If they need any help, hand-holding, understanding their personal situation, there are people like myself that are here to answer questions, guide them through, and ultimately, if they're comfortable, help to facilitate as well. It's that simple.
Philip Patrick from the Birch Gold Group, thank you for joining us on Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Thank you for having me.
And as we get ready for the First Lady of the United States, her remarks live from the White House at the bottom of the hour, delivering a statement, you may be asking the question, what is the FBI up to? And with cut number 1, Kash Patel, the director, putting out a year of success and some change with what's happening at the Federal Bureau of Investigations.
I'm Kash Patel, the 9th director of the FBI. In 2025, this FBI got back to basics by focusing on 4 priorities: crushing violent crime, defending the homeland, rebuilding public trust, and driving fierce organizational accountability. The result? A historic year of accomplishments for our country. On behalf of the entire Bureau, I'm proud to share the highlights of those accomplishments with you. In 2025, this FBI worked nonstop to make America safe again and crush violent crime. Thanks to relentless work through operations like Summer Heat, we took bad guys off the streets and as a result saw a historic 20% drop in the U.S. murder rate in 2025, 100% increase in violent crime arrests, and 197% increase in total arrests over the previous year. But that's not all. We disrupted 1,800 gangs and criminal enterprises, an amazing 210% increase. We seized more than 2,100 kilos of fentanyl, enough to kill 150 million Americans, a 31% increase. We located more than 6,000 child victims, shut down more than 3.8 million pedophile accounts on the dark web, and arrested 1,700 child predators, an almost 20% increase. We also captured 4 of the FBI's 10 most wanted fugitives in 2025, and in the first days of 2026, just captured our 5th. That's more captured in 1 year under this FBI than during the previous 4 years combined. Through it all, we built our relationships with local law enforcement all across the country, now coordinating with them more strongly than ever before. We developed our inaugural Law Enforcement Partner Engagement Council, directly investing in our partners and making them a part of this FBI. And this year, our partners who died in the line of duty decreased almost 20% from 2024. One is too many, so we've got more work to do, but we're trending in the right direction. In 2025, this FBI also worked 24/7 to protect the homeland. We secured America's secrets by making 35% more espionage arrests than in the previous year. That included a 43% increase in arrests related to Iran, a 20% increase in arrests related to Russia, and an outstanding 78% jump in arrests related to China. We also made more than 700 arrests of FBI terrorism subjects and successfully disrupted numerous terrorist attacks before they could take place, including an alleged terror plot linked to ISIS in Michigan, a plot to carry out a series of bombings in Los Angeles on New Year's Eve, planned attacks over the holidays in Charlotte, Philadelphia, Dallas, and more. We worked overtime fighting the heinous new threat of nihilistic violent extremist groups, increasing arrests over 490%, and arresting 20% more online criminals of the 764 network that targets our kids. And finally, we arrested the individual we believe was responsible for placing a pipe bomb at the DNC and RNC on January 6, 2021. In 2025, this FBI also continued its work defending our country from cyber attacks, achieving 173 arrests and 239 disruptions, keeping our infrastructure secure and staying ahead of our adversaries. The work of our International Operations Division led to a 40% increase in global extraditions or foreign transfers of custody, ensuring that the long arm of American justice reached bad actors wherever they were. Our Directorate of Intelligence translated 2.2 million pages of content to support investigations last year, a 130% increase over the year before. Another FBI priority in 2025 was rebuilding the public's trust in us. We ensured transparency for you, the American people, and for Congress, turning over more than 40,000 pages of documents, a 560% increase over 2024. We shifted resources to the field where they're needed the most, moving over 1,000 positions from the DC area back out across America to protect your communities. We also completed a top-to-bottom review of FBI spending and our facilities footprint. The result? $316 million in savings, $1.2 billion in contract ceiling savings, and tens of millions more savings by consolidating 78 facilities over the next 11 years. And after 2 decades of failed attempts to move FBI headquarters out of the crumbling Hoover building, we finally got it done. We scrapped the previous plan for a new building that wouldn't even open until 2036, opting to move to the existing Ronald Reagan building right here in DC. This decision will save nearly $5 billion taxpayer dollars and give our workforce a modern, safe, and superior headquarters location to meet our mission at a fraction of the cost to the taxpayer. Another benefit of rebuilding the public's trust is that more people want to join our team. In 2025, we saw a 112% increase in our special agent applications, and we hired more than 1,400 new employees. While 2025 was a year of historic achievement for the FBI, it won't stop there. In 2026,
one of my favorite buildings,
you, the American people. And one of our best highlights,
one of my favorite buildings there, the Ronald Reagan building right on, or the middle of the Washington, D.C. on Constitution there, a great spot to go by. Congratulations to Director Kash Patel and also the FBI, the DOJ, an amazing group of dedicated professionals focused on safety in the homeland. All the more reason to fund the Department of Homeland Security and its umbrella agencies, with 22 plus that are under the new direction of Secretary Markwayne Mullin. We'll toss it now to the White House and First Lady Melania Trump.
Good afternoon. The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years now. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I'm not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein's abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop. My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
Our First Lady is a transparent, powerful, and inspirational voice in Washington, D.C., throughout our country and our world. We'll jump to cut number 18 with the press secretary just yesterday highlighting the success following the first conviction in Columbus, Ohio, specifically after the Take It Down Act.
Have a quick update from the First Lady of the United States. Yesterday marked the very first conviction under the Take It Down Act, landmark legislation that First Lady Melania Trump played an instrumental role in getting passed that protects victims from non-consensual AI-generated sexually explicit images, cyber stalking, and threats of violence. This is a huge achievement for the First Lady, and I know the President is very proud of his wife's efforts in getting this critical legislation passed to protect America's youth. So we thank the First Lady for her efforts, and we hope that others will report on this historic conviction yesterday.
With everything going on in the world right now, with supply chain issues, global instability, and also shortages that nobody is necessarily talking about, making sure your health care and these commodities are very important. To have life-saving medications on hand. Most people don't think about it until they need something, until they're sick, until they're in the long urgent care lines or are rushing to see their doctor. They're an independent American pharmacy here at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Code RSBN10, that's RSBN10 for 10% off site-wide of medications that are truly life-saving. 400 plus options from antibiotics to antivirals, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, NAD+, ivermectin, and much, much more. Emergency medical kits, Tamiflu, and even those nasal sprays as spring has sprung. They make it simple. If you have a prescription, your doctor can send it straight to them, to a U.S. licensed doctor, on the other hand, to review that order. If you do not have insurance, no red tape, no bureaucracy, no hassle. This is about being prepared if you need it, not scrambling after the fact. And if you've been with us since the top of the hour, Michael Kunzler, the great co-owner of this organization, detailing it's recommended for maintenance medications from blood pressure to thyroid issues, amongst heart issues and others that you might be ailing from. Having those maintenance meds 3 to 6 months stored and ready to go in case there is global catastrophe, crisis, or simply a natural disaster in your neck of the woods. So don't wait for the shelves to be empty. Get your allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN savings lined up today. Code RSBN10. Save 10% off site-wide. 400 options there. at allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Once your health is in order, make sure your finances are safe with a tax-sheltered IRA from Birch Gold Group. The dollar going down over the last 2 decades, well, gold went up over 700%. Tangible metals, silvers also being accumulated, grabbed up by places like JP Morgan Chase and governments around the world. So text Trump to 989898. Diversify your 401k or IRA and get that free info kit for gold IRAs. In fact, I have one right here that I'm meandering on through because it's something that I've been looking into myself as I diversify my savings. And it's a very simple guide here, 2026 information kit. You have nothing to lose. And in here it details why the Birch Gold Group is the best in the business, including, as I mentioned before, why is JP Morgan hoarding silver? They have a whole documentation on that very topic, including what makes silver shine, and also great endorsements from Dr. Ron Paul, the former congressman, also really the one of 4 congressmen who endorsed Ronald Reagan to run against a sitting president, Gerald R. Ford, in 1976. Also from Clay Travis, Buck Sexton, great hosts, as well as Steve Bannon and Ben Shapiro doing their due diligence in the movement. So I would trust their voices for Birch Gold Group, as we are very eager to partner with them here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Again, as global happenings take place and as uncertainty hits here at home with inflation to a skyrocketing national debt and a dollar that's going down, protect what matters most to you. We are honored to have Philip Patrick here in the first hour to talk about the diversification of savings with gold. Text Trump to 989898. And thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history. As we heard from the First Lady, giving that statement in the White House Grand Foyer, very brief but poignant. And we have that replay ready for you right now.
Good afternoon. The lies linking me with the disgraceful Jeffrey Epstein need to end today. The individuals lying about me are devoid of ethical standards, humility, and respect. I do not object to their ignorance, but rather I reject their mean-spirited attempts to defame my reputation. I never been friends with Epstein. Donald and I were invited to the same parties as Epstein from time to time, since overlapping in social circles is common in New York City and Palm Beach. To be clear, I never had a relationship with Epstein or his accomplice, Maxwell. My email reply to Maxwell cannot be categorized as anything more than casual correspondence. My polite reply to her email doesn't amount to anything more than a trivial note. I am not Epstein's victim. Epstein did not introduce me to Donald Trump. I met my husband by chance at a New York City party in 1998. This initial encounter with my husband is documented in detail in my book, Melania. The first time I crossed paths with Epstein was in the year 2000 at an event Donald and I attended together. At the time, I had never met Epstein and had no knowledge of his criminal undertakings. Numerous fake images and statements about Epstein and me have been circulating on social media for years now. Be cautious about what you believe. These images and stories are completely false. I'm not a witness or a named witness in connection with any of Epstein's crimes. My name has never appeared in court documents, depositions, victim statements, or FBI interviews surrounding the Epstein matter. I have never had any knowledge of Epstein abuse of his victims. I was never involved in any capacity. I was not a participant, was never on Epstein's plane, and never visited his private island. I have never been legally accused or convinced of a crime in connection with Epstein's sex trafficking, abuse of minors, and other repulsive behavior. The false smears about me from mean-spirited and politically motivated individuals and entities looking to cause damage to my good name, to gain financially and climb politically, must stop. My attorneys and I have fought these unfounded and baseless lies with success and will continue to maintain my sound reputation without hesitation. To date, several individuals and companies have been legally obligated to publicly apologize and retract their lies about me, such as Daily Beast, James Carville, and HarperCollins, UK. Now is the time for Congress to act. Epstein was not alone. Several prominent male executives resigned from their powerful positions after this matter became widely politicized. Of course, this doesn't amount to guilt, but we still must work openly and transparently to uncover the truth. I call on Congress to provide the women who have been victimized by Epstein with a public hearing specifically centered around the survivors. Give these victims their opportunity to testify under oath in front of Congress with the power of sworn testimony. Each and every woman should have her day to tell her story in public if she wishes, and then her testimony should be permanently entered into the congressional record. Then, and only then, we will have the truth. Thank you.
And with cut number 19, we can talk about the First Lady's proud landmark legislation leading to this conviction in Columbus, Ohio. Her office putting out on Truth Social that the Take It Down Act enjoying its first conviction. Today's marks the first conviction under the Take It Down Act, protecting victims from non-consensual AI-generated sexually explicit images, cyberstalking, and threats of violence. Thank you, U.S. Attorney Dominic S. Geraci II, for protecting Americans from cybercrimes in this new digital age. We are thankful for our sponsors here on the right side of history, especially Kalshi.com/RSBN, where you can trend on the political market right now who will be the 2028 Republican candidate for president of the United States. Will that be the current vice president who's overseas in Hungary, traveling en route to Islamabad, Pakistan, for further negotiations with the Iranian regime after that ceasefire? Will it be Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who's been really the centerpiece of the Trump foreign policy and the Don Roe doctrine, aptly named for the late, great James Monroe, as well as Senator Ted Cruz, who gave a riveting speech on Western civilization and defending Democratic values at CPAC in his home state of Texas, or will it be the free state, sunshine state of Florida, their governor Ron DeSantis, as he's out of the job come January? All of the Southeast changing with term limits, so make your bets and trades right now, not only in the midterms before the 2028 election. Who will win the Masters this weekend? It's about sports as well, a tradition unlike any other. I was privileged enough to go 3 years ago to the Wednesday par 3 competition with all the families and seeing greats like Jack Nicklaus and others compete over the span of multiple generations along with their families. Something very special on those hallowed grounds. Who will be the big victor this weekend as Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson both not in contention for the first time since 1994. So very different to not have them in the field with 5 green jackets and 3 green jackets, respectively, 8 in total between Tiger Woods and Phil Mickelson. So we'll watch that competition as the number 1 in the world, Scottie Scheffler, dominating on that stage. Could it be Gary Woodland, who's really bounced back from brain cancer and healed from that in an emotional testimony as he won a couple of weeks ago on tour? So it's sports, music, culture, politics, and more. Kalshi.com/RSBN, all there for you to make those trades and bets on the most important moments in American history. Scan that QR code there now or visit Kalshi.com/RSBN. Also, we love Rumble Wallet. What's cool about Rumble Wallet, Kalshi as well, they interact to a certain extent, as you could tip your favorite creators with crypto. Download for free now the Google Play Store or the App Store, where free speech meets financial freedom. It's Rumble Wallet, wallet.rumble.com, where you can also make those trades and bets at Kalshi. So it serves itself in a dual role. What's so amazing about Rumble is, and really why they deserve our support, they have peacefully and patriotically fought for you online since all those people were thrown off online a few short years ago, including the President of the United States when COVID was running wild and all of that fake news and false narratives that really have led to moments like this, a new media focused on the truth, and also opportunities for you to protect your savings and your First Amendment rights. Because we know that big banks, big corporations, they can turn the lights off on you for having the wrong opinion in their view. We've seen that happen to people and going financially bankrupt as a result of standing up for the truth. Perhaps none better than former Mayor Rudolph W. Giuliani, America's mayor of New York City fame, with everything he's gone through in the lawfare and the civil suits that he's endured, including the Trump family as well. So free speech meeting financial freedom on this amazing platform. What's really wild about Rumble is they want you to have complete transparency, complete freedom over your savings and your assets. So Rumble Wallet cannot even break into its own wallet. Once it's yours, that's the transparency and the safety really coming through at wallet.rumble.com, where again, you could tip your favorite content creators in the new media. Actually, you could tip us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, which we're grateful for your donations, in addition to using that for your big picks at Kalshi.com. So quite a combo. Get it on the Google Play Store and the App Store right now. Download for free, where free speech meets financial freedom. It's the Rumble Wallet at wallet.rumble.com. As we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway with you this afternoon, let's go to what has been very much a success on the part of Director Patel, the FBI, in cut number 2, going across a number of different outlets about the safety that now exists here at home and ultimately abroad with the MAGA agenda. But right here at home, sealing the border, also having cross-agency cooperation in the DOJ to Border Patrol, also DHS, which needs to be funded. Congress, please get back to work to ensure that happening, specifically in the Senate, in addition to the Save America Act. Director Patel and others in the Department of Justice working overtime, especially the Federal Bureau of Investigations, to make America safe again.
The way we do this, we let good cops be cops. We let law enforcement get after violent crime. I'm committed to working alongside the dedicated men and women of the FBI. Support and defend the Constitution of the United States.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
Against all enemies, foreign and domestic.
The FBI just capped off a historic 2025.
The FBI made numerous arrests over the past 3 months as part of its summer heat operation.
FBI agents here in Atlanta say they just seized enough drugs to kill millions of people.
President Trump has shut off the pipeline that creates fentanyl that kills tens of thousands of Americans. And you know as well as anyone the accomplishments we've had under President Trump and the DOJ to safeguard our children and to drop the murder rate 20 points.
Latest crime stats show that major crime is down, including murders, which are on pace for the largest one-year drop on record.
The prioritization of this administration and General Bondi has made it abundantly clear to child predators. You will be hunted down.
We locked up in a month, 400? We saved 115 kids. You haven't even seen the beginning.
The FBI has captured a suspect on its top 10 most wanted list.
That makes 6 top 10 FBI captures in 1 year alone.
The Justice Department announced the arrest of a suspect considered a key player in the 2012 attack on a U.S. diplomatic compound. Zubair al-Bakush was apprehended overseas and brought to the United States this morning.
Ousted Venezuelan leader Nicolas Maduro and his wife.
So this comes after the FBI partnered with the Department of Justice, State Department, and the Department of War, DEA, to take Maduro into custody.
Folks, you're not going to walk into our capital city, put down 2 explosive devices, and walk off in the sunset.
At this Federal Bureau of Investigation, the men and women at the FBI who make us safe deserve better, and they are going to get it. With our leadership, your support, God bless America, and God bless every one of you. I love this country.
Don't be a panikin, as President Trump reminds us of that. And cut number 4, the U.S. Armed Forces remain in place around Iran, with this ceasefire being agreed to just hours ago. And the president making clear that all U.S. ships, aircraft, and military personnel with additional ammunition, weaponry, and anything else that is appropriate and necessary for the lethal prosecution and destruction of an already substantially degraded enemy will remain in place in and around Iran until such time as the real agreement reached is fully complied with. If for any reason it is not, which is highly unlikely, then the shooting star is bigger and better and stronger than anyone has ever seen before. It was agreed a long time ago, and despite all of the fake rhetoric to the contrary, no nuclear weapons, and the Strait of Hormuz will be open and safe. So in the meantime, our great military is loading up and resting, looking forward actually to its next conquest. America is back. We know the president meeting yesterday with Mark Rutte, the NATO General Secretary, working on that, and former Dutch Prime Minister, who has been very pro-Trump, pro-America in this process, and in really a difficult place, as he does not want to lose America in the NATO alliance. But nearly after 80 years, we have seen how it's become obsolete. And with cut number 5, President Trump making it clear that NATO was not there when we needed them, and they won't be there if we need them again. Remember Greenland, that big poorly run piece of ice signed there by President Donald J. Trump with the initials DJT. Now, the press secretary on the vice president's role in all of this, and cut number 6, detailed yesterday during her press briefing.
Well, Vice President Vance has played a very significant and a key role in this since the very beginning. Of course, he's the president's right-hand man. He is the vice president of the United States. He's been involved in all of these discussions, and as I just announced, he'll be leading this new phase of negotiations in Islamabad later this week. With respect to China, there were conversations that took place between top levels of our government and China's government. The president has great respect for President Xi and a great working relationship with him and with that country, and he looks forward to visiting China in just a few weeks.
If you like what you see here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, your #1 source for live political events, your go-to live desk and rally network, we are viewer supported and rely on great sponsorships and also donations from viewers like you. RSBNetwork.com/donate Or you can send check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. It's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama. RSBN viewer supported. Please help us to continue as we bring you unbridled access to your 45th and 47th President of the United States, the First Lady, as we heard from her today, against those malicious accusations, and also your Vice President on the road right now from Hungary to Pakistan to continue American diplomacy. Also, the 119th Congress enjoying their Easter vacation. I hope they come back soon, especially in the Senate, to take up that important legislation. Regardless, rsbnetwork.com/donate the place to go, or send check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830, as we celebrate Clayton Fuller, the new Representative-elect from Georgia, the northwest side of the state, the upper northwest in the 14th Congressional District, once held by Marjorie Taylor Greene. So we look forward to his swearing in with that narrow majority. We'll continue to cover all of it for you here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. The warehouse moving sale. Save up to 80% at mypillow.com/RSBN. This might be a busy time for those movers. I know back in Chicagoland, right around May 1st is a big moving period of time. It may be the same case for you. So take advantage with all of that at mypillow.com/RSBN. Call today, do not delay, and look for transparent and good affordable quotes at 800-836-7566. Support Mike Lindell and Right Side Broadcasting Network with over 2,000 options at the website, including one of my favorites, my coffee. It is free and fair trade sourced, and the great candidate for Minnesota governor right on the front with the American flag, the Bill of Rights. This man has defended election integrity, the freedom of speech. He's gone into the lion's den. Well, not much of a tough guy, more of a beta. People like Jimmy Kimmel, he's been on his show to preach the truth, to preach goodness, to preach that First Amendment, and ultimately a life with Jesus Christ and religion. Always a good thing. Mike Lindell, a dear friend here of our network. The least we could do is support his amazing products made right here in America, whether it's the My Slippers or the My Pillow 1.0, the 2.0, also the Giza Dream Sheets from the Mediterranean, but again, made here in America. You won't find any more comfortable, better way for a good night's rest and even brighter morning with Mike Lindell and My Pillow at mypillow.com/RSBN. At the top of the hour, 3 o'clock on the East Coast, high noon on the West Coast. Welcome to Right Side Broadcasting Network. I'm Robert McNeely as we cover the latest from the Trump White House. In case you missed yesterday and the press briefing with the superstar Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, cut number 8, quoting the president on NATO as the president met with Mark Rutte leading the NATO alliance.
I have a direct quote from the President of the United States on NATO, and I will share it with all of you. They were tested and they failed. And I would add, it's quite sad that NATO turned their backs on the American people over the course of the last 6 weeks, when it's the American people who have been funding their defense. As you know, President Trump will be meeting with Secretary Rutte in a couple of hours here at the White House, and I know he looks forward to having a very frank and candid conversation with him.
The president has made clear that red line exists, and Ms. Leavitt making that known with cut number 9.
This is on the top of the priority list for the president and his negotiating team as they head into this next round of discussions. And as I said in my opener, that is a red line that the president is not going to back away from, and he's committed to ensuring that takes place. We hope it will be through diplomacy.
But have they given any indication that they would turn it over?
They have.
They have.
Yes.
Islamabad, Pakistan, the location for continued talks. The Vice President of the United States, Jared Kushner, Steve Witkoff, among others, on hand for those negotiations this Saturday as the Prime Minister of India brokering those, hosting that between the United States and Iran.
I can announce that the president is dispatching his negotiating team, led by the Vice President of the United States, J.D. Vance, Special Envoy Witkoff, and Mr. Kushner to Islamabad for talks this weekend. The first round of those talks will take place on Saturday morning local time, and we look forward to those in person.
All this breaking news from yesterday, in case you missed it, with the press secretary in cut number 11 setting the record straight.
With respect to the first reporting out of Iranian state media, the president was made aware of those reports before I came to the podium. That is completely unacceptable. And again, this is a case of what they're saying publicly is different privately. We have seen an uptick of traffic in the Strait today, and I will reiterate the president's expectation and demand that the Strait of Hormuz is reopened immediately, quickly and safely. That is his expectation. It has been relayed to him privately that is what's taking place, and these reports publicly are false.
Caroline diving deeper into the uptick of traffic as we saw the Strait opened just yesterday.
Well, the president loves our seniors across the country. And as you know, the president signed the One Big Beautiful Bill, the Working Families Tax Cut last year, which greatly reduced taxes on Social Security for our seniors. In fact, thanks to the Working Families Tax Cut, nearly 90% of seniors will no longer pay tax on their Social Security. That's a huge win for our seniors and also for our middle class and working families across the country with the no tax on tips provision and the no tax on overtime. Next week is tax week. You'll hear a lot from the president about how his policies have benefited the American people, and I'm proud to report that the president will be traveling next week to the great states of Nevada and Arizona to tout this historic accomplishment over the course of the next week.
We know that war is difficult. We know that these now day 39 operations, very difficult with Operation Epic Fury, but much success happening as Press Secretary Leavitt diving into cut number 14 and the agreements taking place between the United States and Iran.
The valiant efforts of all of our incredible service members created maximum leverage for the President of the United States, allowing he and his leadership team to engage in tough negotiations over the past couple of weeks that have now created an opening for a diplomatic solution and long-term peace in the Middle East. The president's maximum pressure and the leverage created by the success of Operation Epic Fury led to the Iranian regime asking for and ultimately agreeing to a ceasefire proposal with the United States. Iran could no longer tolerate being bombed or taking the gamble of what was to come following President Trump's 8 p.m. deadline last night. Iran has agreed to open the Strait of Hormuz, and as the president said, we have received a proposal from the Iranians that has been determined to be a workable basis on which to negotiate. I've seen a lot of inaccurate coverage today from the media about these negotiations and these plans already. So let me be clear and correct the record. The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States, and that is false. With the president's deadline fast approaching and the United States military completely decimating Iran with each passing hour, the regime acknowledged reality to the negotiating team. They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal. The president's red lines, namely the end of Iranian enrichment in Iran, have not changed. And the idea that President Trump would ever accept an Iranian wish list as a deal is completely absurd. The president will only make a deal that serves in the best interests of the United States of America, and he as a negotiating team will focus on this effort over the next 2 weeks, so long as the Strait of Hormuz remains open with no limitations or delays. These extraordinarily sensitive and complex negotiations will take place behind closed doors over the course of the next 2 weeks. I would strongly advise the media against running with narratives that have no basis in fact. What Iran says publicly or feeds to all of you in the press is much different than what they communicate to the United States, the president, and his team privately. Never underestimate President Trump's ability to successfully advance America's interests and broker peace. President Trump has a proven track record of achieving good deals on behalf of the United States and the American people, and he will only accept one that puts America first.
With everything going on in the world right now, whether it's supply chain issues to global instability and a rising national debt here at home, smart to be prepared when you need it, especially with your health. Shortages nobody's talking about in regards to off-label generics like antibiotics, the antivirals, ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, and also NAD+, 400 plus medications that most people don't think about until they need something. And then they go to the urgent care lines that are long or try to get in with their doctor and they can't get that access. By then it's too late. We've been recommending All Family Pharmacy as a result of this. Visit allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. 10% off right now with code RSBN10. 10% off site-wide of your essential medications. When it comes to maintenance meds like blood pressure to thyroid issues, also to diabetes and more, they make it simple. If you have a prescription, your doctor can send it in to their U.S. licensed doctor to review the order on the other end. No red tape, no bureaucracy, simply a pharmaceutical note to get the job done. And if you value convenience, this is about being prepared. So once that order is reviewed by the U.S. licensed doctor, it's sent right back to your door where you ordered from. So you're not scrambling after the fact, especially as we go from cold and flu season into the spring. Tamiflu, still great to have on hand, including nasal sprays if the springtime bothers you with all that pollen out there. The people who have what they need in a crisis are the ones who planned ahead, not only at home, but if they're traveling on vacation. You can get stocked up now. Common sense to do so. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN. Also, talking about health, covepure.com/RSBN. All health really starts in the gut. It's a great communication between our brain and our guts. And if you might feel sluggish or not on your best game, whether at work or in your personal life, it might be because of the water you're consuming. We know that the tap water issues, especially in certain municipalities and cities, are simply deplorable. Microplastics, PFAs, pesticides, agricultural runoff, medical residue, all ending up in the water supply. What are you to do to protect you and your family? Drink pure, live pure at covepure.com/RSBN, leading the way in reverse osmosis technology, where it removes 99.9% of the impurities out of the water with their ClearWave technology. Really revolutionary. And what you see there is what you get with the model. If you like to enjoy a cup of tea in the morning or even the early afternoon or at night, you don't have to wait for it to steep on the stove, but rather get those temperatures nice and hot, 170 plus in mere seconds. Also, if you like cold water to lukewarm, whatever the temperature you prefer, done very quickly. Also, if you're renting, as this machine is no larger than your coffee machine that I'm sure you have on your kitchen counter or your den, there's no drilling of holes, there's no plumber needed, so you can keep your security deposit without making a mess. Protect what matters most, as JAMA Pediatrics putting out a study that children drinking out of the tap water, we know they love to do that as the temperatures get warmer in the spring into the summer. They can lose 2 points or more in their IQ as a result of drinking contaminated, poisonous water. And with all that learning loss from COVID, we don't need any more of that here in America. It's a national security issue. So drink pure and live pure with covepure.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there now. Get $250 off this truly life-saving machine, because RFK Jr. is right. The good Secretary of Health and Human Services. Everyone wants clean air and clean water. Most Democrats, Republicans, independents across the country, we agree on that. Let's make it happen with covepure.com/RSBN as we cover the latest inside and outside of the Beltway, especially from the Trump White House. We have, in case you missed it, coverage of Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt, the superstar, with cut number 15 on the last 6 weeks of the Operation Epic Fury, now in day 39, yesterday day 38, and the updates with the ceasefire.
6 weeks ago, the president looked the American people in the eye directly, and he told them that he launched this operation to take out the the imminent threat that was posed by Iran, and that threat has now been greatly destroyed. Their navy, their missiles, their defense industrial base, and their desire and their plan to build a nuclear bomb inside their country is no longer going to be allowed, can no longer happen, thanks to the remarkable success of Operation Epic Fury over the course of the last 38 days. That has been absolutely achieved, and now we're moving into the next phase of this, which is a negotiating period to put some fine points on this and to hopefully broker an agreement that can achieve long-term peace in the Middle East.
With cut number 16, we do not forget the 13 lost in Operation Epic Fury. It hits right here at home in Auburn, Alabama, across the country as well, as these brave souls laid down their lives for their friends. We have a far superior military than anyone else in the world, and it starts with a volunteer class of people of really all ages, but mostly millennials and Gen Z, willing to lay their lives on the line to make America safe again.
As we mark this progress, we also remember and honor the 13 American heroes who laid down their lives in this noble effort. I know President Trump and our grateful nation honors their ultimate sacrifice, and we will never forget them. May God bless their families.
38 days of victory, now on day 39, as diplomacy can work, and potentially this Saturday in Islamabad, Pakistan. But the press secretary with Cut 17 detailing the overwhelming might of the U.S. military in 38 days of the operation.
With respect to the 2-week ceasefire announced by President Trump last night, this is a victory for the United States of America that the president and our incredible military made happen. From the very beginning of Operation Epic Fury, President Trump stated this would be a 4 to 6 week military operation to dismantle the military threat posed by the radical Islamic Iranian regime. Thanks to the unbelievable capabilities of America's war fighters, the United States has achieved and exceeded those core military objectives in just 38 days. The U.S. military destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, crushing the regime's ability to manufacture weapons that they and their proxies use to maim and kill Americans and terrorize the world. Iran's ability to build and stockpile ballistic missiles and long-range drones has also been set back by years compared to where it was 6 weeks ago prior to the launch of Operation Epic Fury. We destroyed the vast majority of Iran's ballistic missiles, launcher vehicles, and long-range attack drones through more than 450 strikes on ballistic missiles and approximately 800 strikes on Iran's drone launching units and storage facilities. In total, more than 13,000 targets across Iran were struck. Again, this is in the matter of just 38 days. Meanwhile, the Iranian Navy was completely annihilated. The United States destroyed more than 150 naval vessels in total, including 16 entire classes of Iranian warships. Despite once being the largest undersea force in the Middle East, Iran now has 0 submarine vessels. 97% of Iran's once massive inventory of more than 5,000 naval mines has also been targeted and destroyed. Iran's air forces are functionally and operationally irrelevant at this point, after the United States maintained total air dominance over their country for weeks on end. To underscore the significance of this, before Operation Epic Fury, the Iranian Air Force would fly between 30 to 100 flights per day. Today, that number is 0. Iran's ability to fund and support its terrorist proxies has been greatly reduced. At this point, Iran can no longer distribute weapons to its proxies in the region. And most importantly, Iran will not be able to acquire nuclear weapons. Prior to the start of this successful operation, Iran was aggressively expanding its short-range ballistic missile arsenal. Through these weapons and its navy, Iran was attempting to build a military buildup around their country that would pose an imminent and existential threat to the United States military assets in the Middle East, our allies in the region, and ultimately the free world. Iran was pursuing this dangerous and aggressive strategy for one reason: to hold the entire world hostage to its terrorist ambitions. The Iranians aimed to use their expanded military capabilities as a shield around their country to continue achieving their ultimate goal internally, building nuclear bombs. but their murderous and evil plans have been blown up, quite literally and figuratively, along with their military, their nuclear program, and most of their senior leadership, including the former Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei. Their command and control structures were also massively disrupted after being struck more than 2,000 times. Many of their remaining leaders are paralyzed in fear and no longer enjoy the freedom to move around their country freely and meet openly. Thanks to the unmatched excellence of our warriors at the direction of the Commander-in-Chief, the world has just witnessed a historically swift and successful military triumph. President Trump started Operation Epic Fury with strategic military objectives, and the United States has clearly achieved them.
Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN. On 2028, the question trending in political markets right now, who will be the Republican nominee for President of the United States? Many big names jumping on that list, including J.D. Vance, Marco Rubio, Ted Cruz, to Ron DeSantis, amongst perhaps others. What do you think about that? Trade and bet on that now. The Masters underway, a tradition unlike any other in the sports world. Who will be crowned the Green Jacket champion come Sunday afternoon or evening as the twilight hangs over that gorgeous course in Augusta, Georgia? Truly Bobby Jones tournament that has turned into one unlike any other. My personal favorite as we look and trade on the most important events throughout America, from music, sports to culture, politics, and more. It's Kalshi.com/RSBN. Scan that QR code there for all of those bets and trades as we look to Kalshi for some of the most exciting events in America. What's special about our sponsorships, and we have great sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, but Rumble Wallet actually works with Kalshi.com to a certain extent. I'll explain in a moment, as you can tip your favorite creators with crypto. Download for free on the Google Play Store and the App Store. You can use the Rumble Wallet to make those Kalshi bets. So a fun, convenient way to be in the same sphere and space as Tether Gold, Bitcoin, and other crypto commodities can be used for the Rumble Wallet, where free speech meets financial freedom. And Rumble truly deserves our support, as people got thrown off of social media accounts for being on the right side of history, dating back to the COVID days and the end of the first term under President Trump. And we know him himself with all of the lawfare, with all of the Russia hoax. He was thrown off of things like Facebook and Twitter before it became X under Elon Musk. So wallet.rumble.com, really a platform for you to make sure that you are not turned off in the culture wars and the continued debates happening in our country. We know that big corporate entities online now can turn off bank accounts. They've done it to people, and they won't hesitate to turn off you if they're turning off people like the President of the United States. And we know what is now history coming back in perhaps the most famous election in American history with 2024. So be sure to visit wallet.rumble.com, the Rumble Wallet, where you can tip your favorite creators in Tether Gold, Bitcoin, other cryptocurrencies. And you can download now for free, Google Play Store and the App Store, where free speech meets financial freedom. It's the Rumble Wallet at wallet.rumble.com. As President Trump stating with Cut 20, the fake news on Iran. We've been hearing a lot of narratives out there. It seems as if some media outlets want this country to fail, that they want the operation to fail. And it went from, oh my goodness gracious, the panic and screaming right, left, and center online about President Trump's comments on Easter. But then people like Jimmy Kimmel calling him the taco for not following through on his promise, although before that deadline, 90 minutes roughly, agreeing to that ceasefire, that apparently the acronym going that Trump always cowards out of it. I think something rather ridiculous, considering that he has been the only president who has followed through on this promise, dealing with Iran over the course of the last 50 years. So Cut 20, the fake news on Iran. Numerous agreements, lists, and letters are being sent out by people that have absolutely nothing to do with the United States and the Iran negotiations. In many cases, they are total fraudsters, charlatans, and worse. They will rapidly be exposed after our federal investigation is completed. There is only one group of meaningful points that are acceptable to the United States, and we will be discussing them behind closed doors during these negotiations. And these are the points that are the basis on which we agreed to a ceasefire. It is something that is reasonable and can easily be dispensed with. It's very much like fake news CNN last night, headlining a source that had no power or authority to write a letter claiming great authority. And that signed there by the president just yesterday. In the meantime, the vice president, in case you missed it, in Hungary, not only giving a speech to 5,000 plus endorsing Viktor Orban for his election just days away, but also discussing foreign involvement in elections, a very important point with cut number 21, because we can remember the former president Joe Sleepy Autopen Crooked Biden talking about his time as in that role as vice president, threatening people abroad. We remember that press conference and the vice president setting the record straight with cut number 21 about what really means foreign intervention versus a simple endorsement.
I wasn't even aware that Zelensky had said that he was going to send private soldiers to the prime minister's residence until yesterday. Victor actually told me that, and then I went and looked it up. Almost couldn't believe it's true, but it's true. It's completely scandalous. You should never have a foreign head of government or a foreign head of state threatening the head of government of an allied nation. It's preposterous. It's unacceptable. And what I find so interesting about, there's a lot of conversation about foreign influence in our elections. So you saw this back in 2016, where a lot of the American media said that it was a true scandal that the Russian government bought like $500,000 of Facebook advertisements during the 2016 campaign. And for what it's worth, I don't want Russia involved in our elections in the same way that I'm sure you don't want any other country involved in your elections. I've also been told that the vice president of the United States coming and saying that Viktor Orban is doing a good job and is a helpful statesman to the cause of peace, that's foreign influence. But what's not foreign influence is when the European Union threatens billions of dollars withheld from Hungary because you guys protect your borders. That's apparently not foreign influence. What's not foreign influence is when the Ukrainians shut down pipelines, causing suffering among the Hungarian people in an effort to influence an election. That's allegedly not foreign influence. It doesn't pass the smell test. Foreign influence is when other governments threaten, cajole, and try to use economic influence to tell you how to vote. And that, to the Hungarian people, whether you like Viktor Orban or not, whether you agree with this or that policy, that is fundamentally an assault on your sovereignty. You know what I have never done, even though we have, of course, a lot of economic power in the United States of America. We are the economic and military superpower of the world. We have never threatened Hungary, saying, if you don't vote for Viktor Orban, you're not going to get this and this. We would never do that because we respect the Hungarian people enough to respect their sovereignty. The fact that so many foreign actors, whether they're transnational organizations like the bureaucrats in Brussels, or whether it's foreign governments, are literally threatening the Hungarian people, vote this way or we're going to exact our revenge on you, that should make you very angry. You should vote against that for the simple reason that you are sovereign in this country. One of the coolest things about my visit is, late yesterday, when it was closed down, we went and saw the crown of St. Stephen in the Parliament. And I love the symbolism of this, of course, because it's one of the oldest, maybe the oldest surviving crown that exists in Western civilization, but it's there at the center of the parliamentary building. What does that mean? That means that sovereignty rests with the Hungarian people. The people are sovereign in Hungary. But for that to be true, the Hungarian people have to reject these foreign influence operations, vote for who they want to be their leader, reject the Brussels bureaucrats.
And we are joined now, as we cover the latest from the Trump White House, by David Kruger, who is an AI professor at the University of Montreal, also CEO and founder of Evitable. David, thank you for taking the time to join us today as you led a protest outside of Sam Altman's office on OpenAI. Can we dive into that about these imminent threats that you are seeing and what you fear about the future of artificial intelligence?
Yeah, absolutely. So the protest I attended and spoke at was actually outside of 3 AI companies, OpenAI, Anthropic, and xAI. And we're calling on all of the leading AI companies to agree to pause development of further, more powerful AI systems. That's conditional on everyone else agreeing to do it. And this is something that we really should have done several years ago. Experts warned in a statement I initiated 3 years ago that AI could lead to human extinction. Governments have not responded effectively to that yet. So we're seeing AI getting more and more powerful every day, and we really need to do something about it to get the situation under control.
And how would you find it, being that in your Canada, our United States of America here, is it something through Parliament, through Congress, to get the ball rolling when it comes to the regulation of artificial intelligence?
There's a lot of things we could do right now nationally to regulate AI, but the focus of that protest and of my work at Evitable is an international treaty to prevent further progress in AI and progress towards superintelligence, which is AI so powerful that nobody knows how to control it. To do that, I think we should be looking at the hardware, and basically we need to get rid of AI chips and the factories that build them so that we can have an enforceable agreement that the US and China can both agree to.
Is this something kind of like the turn of the century back from the 19th to the 20th where you have to, I guess, regulate the monopolies? Is that what you're concerned about? Because you're not, I want to make sure, not against AI in its entirety, just the idea that it can be so concentrated into so few or so elite, and that it can build and grow uncontrollable over time.
Yeah, I'm not anti-technology or anti-AI, but the situation right now is out of control. AI is advancing so fast, nobody can keep up. We just saw the release of Claude Mythos from Anthropic, one of the leading developers, and it has the capabilities. It looks like it can hack into basically any system in the world. So all of cybersecurity is currently, at risk from developments in AI. And that's just, the beginning. It's only going to get worse from here, and it's moving much too fast.
And where does Sam Altman really play into all this? Because I think most of us recognize his name. We hear him on many mainstream media sources, don't see much of him. But where does he fall into this discussion?
Yeah, Sam Altman is the CEO of OpenAI, which I would say is basically the other leading developer. And what we've seen from Sam Altman, as has been reported recently in the New Yorker, is really a pattern of lying and manipulation and dishonesty that is extremely concerning for the leader of such a powerful company. Now, I don't think we should have anybody with as much power as these AI companies are going to have over the future. They're building technology. It's not chatbots. Their aim is to have a general purpose replacement for humans and human workers and humans through out society.
And tell us how they're buying time in the process. Is it through lobbying or something where they're trying to really position themselves where it's one size fits all?
Yeah, so Sam Altman has said that he wants AI companies to be regulated a number of times, but when you actually look at what OpenAI is doing behind the scenes, they're lobbying to kill the bills that would hold them accountable and that would mandate that they do safety testing. So, we urgently need AI regulation, and the AI companies, they say one thing and then they do another.
And does this look like something from perhaps, again, the turn of the century, those antitrust laws which broke up the monopolies? Will that be similar in this regard, or does it look totally different as there's an attempt to regulate the ever-growing AI field?
No, I think it would be something different. What we need right now is regulations that help us understand what's happening in AI and apply safety standards. But really, that's just the beginning. Like, what I'm saying is this is moving too fast, and we need to find a way to slow down. And again, that has to happen internationally. There's no way around that. I mean, we could start slowing down in the US, but China will catch up, if it's months or years. So we have to find a way to have an agreement where we can both trust that the other side isn't doing it in secret.
And so I'm seeing it maybe something similar to nuclear fissile material, or even agreeing to limit those weapons, if I could speak on this topic. And being someone who is not an expert on it, but very interested in it, how does this affect the average American and Canadian, or even North American, as we move deeper into the 21st century?
So this is going to change everyone's life in really dramatic ways. But I think the most obvious and impactful one in the near term is going to be the effect on jobs and the economy. So we're going to see lots of innovation and new products coming from AI, and some of that's going to be great. But we're also going to see it take more and more people's jobs. We're already starting to see that, but it's going to get a lot worse really fast with how fast the technology is moving. After that, AI is going to, take over other roles in society, including, decision making in government and even in the military, which we're also starting to see. So this is going to have a profound impact on everyone's lives, and we're not ready for it.
It's really fascinating to really take control of something that does seem uncontrollable at the moment. As an expert on this, David, what is your suggestion if counseled on the safety parameters that are needed, let's say the next 6 months to a year and even beyond that?
So again, I think right now we really just need to try and get a handle on this situation, and that means finding a way to slow down. So once we do that, then we can start thinking about how could we develop this technology safely and what direction do we want to take it. And then there's all sorts of questions like, what role do we want AI to play in society? How do we make sure that people can't misuse these systems? Right now, there's a huge concern that these systems aren't secure enough and they're so general purpose that people could use them to create weapons of mass destruction, like bioweapons. So that's an obvious thing that we don't want these systems to have the capability for. But it's actually technically, it's hard to make a system that can do all the things that today's systems can do, all the great things that we want them to do, without also having those kinds of dangerous capabilities.
Well, we'll watch this very closely. David Kruger, AI professor at the University of Montreal, also CEO and founder of Evitable. Please come back and see us again soon at Right Side Broadcasting Network.
Absolutely. Thank you.
And as we cover the latest on the Trump White House and the news breaking across the channels, thank you to All Family Pharmacy. So much happening in the world today as we know it, with the supply chain issues, global instability, and the debt right here at home. Save 10%. Who doesn't want to save some money on life-saving medications, most favored nation status, the right to try, and generic off labels that you should have in your stockpile and medicine cabinet. Sometimes people don't talk about this, they don't think about this, and then you get sick, and those long lines at the urgent care to trying to find your doctor, it can become a nightmare. So your access to medication is something to think about. Most people want to have affordable pharmaceuticals. Makes sense. So allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN providing that option. Again, code RSBN10 site-wide for 10% off of your maintenance medications, including antibiotics to antivirals, Tamiflu, nasal sprays, but also ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, NAD+, and methylene blue, which studies are showing across the board that these medications that the FDA approved over a half century ago can actually deal with things like cancer to Alzheimer's, dementia, and the studies continuing to bring us hope in 2026. But some big outfit pharmacies simply do not prescribe this. Sometimes other doctors in their networks don't prescribe these life-saving medications. So that's why the insurance and the middlemen get thrown out here at allfamilypharmacy.com. It's simple. Your doctor can send a pharmaceutical note, or the other way around, as a U.S. licensed doctor reviews that for All Family Pharmacy. And speaking about convenience, they send it back to you in a matter of a couple of days. 400 plus essential maintenance medications, whether it's blood pressure, thyroid issues, diabetes, to much, much more. allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN there for you with code RSBN10. Save 10% off right now site-wide at All Family Pharmacy. Also, thank you to Birch Gold Group. As the dollar declines the last 2 decades, going down exponentially, diversify your savings with gold, skyrocketing over 700% in that due time. Text Trump to 989898. Diversify your 401k, your IRA with a tax-sheltered option from the Birch Gold Group. And this free nifty guide to learn why JP Morgan Chase also bulking up with silver. They're just grabbing all of it, quite frankly. They're hoarding it, in fact, as silver is shining in this moment, including gold, where geopolitical diversification offsets political risk and ultimately protects your savings. With crypto on the premier lines with financial advisory that can make a massive difference for your savings and, again, your 401k. And you heard our last guest speak on the diversification of artificial intelligence, how that's really not being regulated at the moment, and what that can mean for the future of America and the world as we know it. So diversify now in a time-tested commodity that's lasted thousands of years throughout civilizations. It's gold, it's silver, it's tangible metals, and it's backed by the best people in the business when it comes to financial security. Dr. Ron Paul, Steve Bannon, Ben Shapiro, Clay Travis, and Buck Sexton all endorsing the Birch Gold Group. So again, diversify now, look at your options. No one size fits all. And what do you have to lose? Just grab this nifty information guide in the process. I look through it, and I'm looking at my own options as we speak. So text Trump to 989898 and diversify with a tax-sheltered IRA or 401k option from the best in the business, Birch Gold Group. As we continue our coverage today, extended for this afternoon, we are focused on the vice president's trip to Hungary. He will be heading to Islamabad, Pakistan, come Tuesday for further negotiations as we look forward to Viktor Orban's endorsement by the United States, specifically President Trump and the vice president for re-election as he's fighting to protect Western civilization. The vice president, J.D. Vance, on these upcoming negotiations comes Saturday with cut number 22.
I do think there are good developments here. And let me just say a few things. First of all, what the president set out to do was decimate the Iranian military, decimate their ability to wage conventional war. And that military objective, as the president said yesterday, as I said yesterday, has been achieved. And because of that, what the president did is he basically issued an ultimatum to the Iranians. He said, open up the straits, stop trying to hold the world's economy hostage, and we'll engage in a ceasefire. And that's exactly the agreement that we came to last night. The Iranians have agreed to open up the straits. The United States has agreed to stop attacking. And not just the United States, but also our allies have agreed to stop attacking. And that is the basis of this fragile truce that we have, which is now, 8 to 12 hours old. Now, here's what I'll say about this. I've learned a lot about the Iranian system and a lot about the way the Iranians negotiate. Because the president told me last night the Iranians are better negotiators than they are fighters. I'm sure they don't like to hear that, but it's true. But here's a couple things. So, one, just in the response that we've seen from various segments of Iran, you have on the one hand people within Iran who have responded very favorably. The foreign minister who said, look, we agreed to the United States' terms. We'll do a ceasefire, we'll do a negotiation, we'll open the Straits of Hormuz, and then we'll see if we can come to more agreement down the road. So some of the people have responded favorably and have said the right things. And then you have some people on social media within their system who are basically lying about what we've accomplished militarily. They're lying about the nature of the agreement. They're lying about the nature of the ceasefire. And so you have just, even within their system, and this is why I say this is a fragile truce, you have people who clearly want to come to the negotiating table and work with us to find a good deal. And then you have people who are lying about even the fragile truce that we've already struck. And that's just an interesting thing about their system. And the final point that I'll say about this is the President of the United States has told me, and he's told the entire negotiating team, the Secretary of State, the Special Envoy, Steve Witkoff, he said, go and work in good faith to come to an agreement. That is what he has told us to do. If the Iranians are willing, in good faith, to work with us, I think we can make an agreement. If they're going to lie, if they're going to cheat, if they're going to try to prevent even the fragile truce that we've set up from taking place, then they're not going to be happy. Because what the president has also shown is that we still have clear military, diplomatic, and maybe most importantly, we have extraordinary economic leverage. So the president has told us not to use those tools. He's told us to come to the negotiating table. But if the Iranians don't do the exact same thing, they're going to find out that the president of the United States is not one to mess around. He's impatient. He's impatient to make progress. He has told us to negotiate in good faith. And I think if they negotiate in good faith, we will be able to find a deal. But that's a big if. And ultimately, it's up to the Iranians how they negotiate. I hope they make the right decision.
Thank you to Kalshi.com/RSBN, where you can trend on the political market right now. What's happening? It's the question of not only midterms forthcoming. We've seen a couple of big races thus far, but with runoffs already happening in the great state of Texas to May 19th, a big one for Georgia, Alabama, and other states throughout our fine union. Who will be that 2028 Republican nominee for President of the United States? Perhaps the man you just saw, the 50th Vice President, J.D. Vance, with his negotiation team, including Secretary of State Marco Rubio, really making a surge at CPAC. And speaking of CPAC, a great speech by Senator Ted Cruz of the Lone Star State and that free Sunshine State governor, so many people moving to Florida since COVID, Ron DeSantis, who won by 0.08%, I believe less than 1%, if not less than 2% in that 2018 race when endorsed by President Trump against the Tallahassee socialist mayor, and then winning by 20 plus points in 2022 for his re-election. So the whole landscape changing, especially in the Southeast. Or will it be someone else, perhaps of neocon royalty? Of course, I scoff at that statement, that will try to take over the Republican Party once again. Trade on the most important events affecting American culture, sports, music, politics, and more at kalshi.com/RSBN, including who will be the victor of the Masters Tournament in Augusta, Georgia, now underway in that beautiful setting, all set and brought to you by the late, great Bobby Jones of the Peach State. We look forward to that tournament as we look forward to the ultimate tournament, the presidential election come 2028. And you can trade or bet through kalshi.com/RSBN with the latest Rumble wallet at wallet.rumble.com. Download for free now, the Google Play Store and the App Store. To tip your favorite content creators in Tether Gold, to Bitcoin, other crypto options, and again, those bets and trades right there at kalshi.com/RSBN. We have great sponsors here, but rarely do they intertwine and work as these two do, where free speech meets financial freedom. Rumble really deserves our support as they peacefully and patriotically protected Americans and their voices right, left, and center when people were being thrown off of social media sites. Most famously, President Trump himself off of Facebook, off of Twitter, back towards the end of his first term. And then we saw the lawfare, we saw the Russia hoax, and we know a few people, perhaps you, having your bank account turned off or thrown out of polite company on the left because you had the wrong opinion. We know big corporate entities can literally do that, and with corporate banks out there, so much online, can turn off the savings and the retirement you worked hard for. So protect yourself with Rumble Wallet, where Rumble cannot break into their own wallet. What a remarkable, nifty little tool to have on hand to protect yourself from an ever-growing uncertainty in the world. It's protecting your assets and free speech, meaning financial freedom there at wallet.rumble.com. Again, download for free the Google Play or the App Store and tip your favorites, perhaps here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, with crypto, Tether Gold, and Bitcoin. Thank you to Rumble Wallet for our partnership and sponsoring us here at Right Side Broadcasting Network. Operation Epic Fury now in day 39, the ceasefire upholding, at least in the short term. 2 weeks scheduled and roughly now 13 days to have these discussions, which will commence on Saturday further with the Vice President and also Steve Witkoff, Special Envoy, and Jared Kushner there leading the way, as well as Secretary of State Marco Rubio, who has been truly vital in all of these discussions around the world. We saw now Israel and Lebanon, specifically Hezbollah, and their engagements as Iran's influence becoming weaker and weaker across the board, with all of the objectives being met by the United States dating back to February 28th when this operation came underway. In case you missed it, cut number 23, General Kane, Dan Raisin Kane, chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, on Operation Epic Fury, this from yesterday.
The United States has devastated the regime's ability to harm Americans and our interests for years to come. Since the beginning of major combat operations, the United States Joint Force has struck more than 13,000 targets, including in that 13,000 more than 4,000 dynamic targets that popped up on the battlefield and were immediately addressed, thanks to the exceptional command and control system and intelligence, acumen, and agility of our Joint Force. CENTCOM forces destroyed approximately 80% of Iran's air defense systems, striking more than 1,500 air defense targets, more than 450 ballistic missile storage facilities, 800 one-way attack drones storage facilities. All of these systems are gone. We've devastated Iran's command and control and logistical networks, destroying more than 2,000 command and control nodes and degrading their ability to target U.S. and friendly forces. It is, and we know this, incredibly frustrating right now to be a lower level Iranian commander trying to fight your fight. As the Secretary said, the Iranian Navy now lies mostly at the bottom of the Arabian Gulf, and we assess that we've sunk more than 90% of their regular fleet, including all of the major surface combatants, as the Secretary said. 150 ships are at the bottom of the ocean, and half of the IRGC Navy's small attack boats. Joint fires projected from the land, sea, and air executed more than 700 strikes against naval mine targets, and we had assessed that we destroyed more than 95% of their naval mines. And perhaps most importantly, we've destroyed Iran's defense industrial base, their ability to reconstitute those capabilities for years to come. We attacked, along with our partners, approximately 90% of their weapons factories. Every factory that produced Shahed one-way attack drones was struck. Every factory that produces the guidance systems that go into those drones was struck. Their missile defense industrial base is shattered, with more than 80% of their missile facilities gone, as well as their solid rocket motor production capability. It will take years for Iran to rebuild any major surface combatants, as more than 20 naval production and fabrication facilities have been damaged or destroyed, and nearly 80% of Iran's nuclear industrial base was hit, further degrading their attempts to attain a nuclear weapon. Throughout Operation Epic Fury, our joint force struck at the heart of Iran's ability to project power and threaten the United States and the region. And in order to do this, it required the service and sacrifice of more than 50,000 American warfighters deployed across CENTCOM, EUCOM, and stateside. The Joint Force flew more than 10,000 missions, including 62 bomber missions, 18 of which flew round trip from the United States to deliver bombs on military targets. Each of these missions was more than 30 hours in duration, and we did that 18 times. No other military in the world can do that. And it's a testament to the logistical force that quietly serves behind them. I cannot thank TRANSCOM and the Air Force Tanker and Mobility Force more. Combined with Army and Navy joint fires, we struck more than 13,000 targets. And along with our Gulf partners, we've thus far intercepted 1,700 ballistic missiles and one-way attack drones, defending our forces and our partners in the civilian population. And we remain ready to do so should the need arise. Along the way, we consume more than 6 million meals, and by my estimate, more than 950,000 gallons of coffee, 2 million energy drinks, and a lot of nicotine, but I am not saying that we have a problem.
Transparency unlike any other from this administration. Well done to the Department of War. We'll continue to cover that press conference yesterday from the Secretary of War and the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff in a moment. Thank you to our sponsors here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, the great CovePure.com/RSBN. Drink pure and live pure. It's true. Secretary Kennedy dedicating really his career to clean air and clean water. We all want that. And this leader in reverse osmosis technology, removing 99.9% of the impurities out of the water with their ClearWave technology. As you see there, no larger than a coffee maker or coffee machine I'm sure that you have on your kitchen counter. If you are renting, a great machine as well, because you don't need the pipes, the tubes, the drilling, and you do not need a plumber to come over to install. What you see is what you get there with the model and the video, which details the temperature going up fast. Do you like a cup of tea in the morning, perhaps at night before you drift off to bed? You can get that hot water very fast. Same with cold, same with lukewarm, whatever your preference. So you do not have to wait for the tea to steep on your stove, which could get you going out late in the morning or just postpone what you're trying to enjoy in the evening. The truth is really quite frightening in our water supply system, some worse than others, especially in big blue cities, where PFAS, microplastics, agricultural runoff, pesticides, also medical residue getting into the water. So protect what matters most, your gut health, which does affect your overall being and is the first thing to communicate with your brain to see if there's anything happening wrong in your system. So get back to the basics. Drink pure, live pure with covepure.com/RSBN. As you scan that QR code, JAMA Pediatrics putting out a really frightening study that students, your children, losing 2 or more points in their IQ if they are drinking tap water on a regular basis. We know what was lost with the COVID learning scandals that took place, and now the Leering centers up in Minnesota. We need not any more disruption to our educational prowess here in America. And one of the most common sense ways to do that, protecting the gut health of you and your family at covepure.com/RSBN. Save $250 off right now. Speaking of health, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN leading the way, 10% off site-wide with code RSBN10. With supply chain issues, global instability, and shortages that no one's really talking about in the mainstream, we are so blessed here to have one of our finest sponsors at All Family Pharmacy, giving you access to medication that is needed. Maintenance medications, in fact, over 400 plus available when most people don't think about it until they need something when they're sick and there's a long line at the urgent care or their pharmacy down the street doesn't have it available or simply won't prescribe it. Things like ivermectin, mebendazole, hydrochloroquine, methylene blue, 2, NAD+, and much, 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 much more. All of these medications being tested and done studies on over half a century now. FDA approved, that are leading to, in some cases, cures, and in some cases, remedies of things like cancer, dementia, to Alzheimer's, amongst many others. So they're an independent American family pharmacy that helps you stay stocked and prepared for the right to try most favored nation status of generic off-label pharmaceuticals. And there's no middleman. So if you do not have insurance, that's okay. Simply a pharmaceutical note from your doctor or working with their U.S. licensed doctor on the other end to review your order, bringing it right back to your door. So if you value convenience, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, truly the go-to. Blood pressure issues, thyroid medications to diabetes and more, all those maintenance meds available with Tamiflu, nasal sprays, also emergency medical kits, so crucial to staying healthy and protected in 2026. Again, allfamilypharmacy.com/RSBN, 10% off site-wide now. Order the essentials with All Family Pharmacy, code RSBN10, 10% off now. Scan that QR code there and stay healthy with All Family Pharmacy. Thank you for sponsoring us on the right side of history as we cover the latest from the White House and the press briefing at the Department of War yesterday. Cut number 24, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth on the non-negotiable terms regarding the ceasefire.
Always been non-negotiable that they won't have nuclear capabilities. And so right now it's buried and we're watching it. We know exactly what they have, and they know that. And they will either give it to us, which the president has laid out. They'll give it to us voluntarily. We'll get it. We'll take it out. Or if we have to do something else ourselves, like we did in Midnight Hammer or something like that, we reserve that opportunity. But what's clear, what the new Iranian regime knows, is they'll never have a nuclear weapon or the capability to get a path to one. As far as the new regime, you heard the list that I read. It's a new group of people who've seen the full capability of the United States military and has a new calculus about what it means to negotiate with us, hence why they came to the table wanting a ceasefire and the shooting to stop. So this new regime, which the regime has been changed, has a different interaction with the U.S.
And the Secretary of War saying that Iran will comply with this ceasefire, the Department of War being very clear about that with cut number 25.
We'll be hanging around. We're not going anywhere. We're going to make sure Iran complies with this ceasefire and then ultimately comes to the table and makes a deal. So we'll stay put, stay ready, stay vigilant, as the chairman laid out. Our troops are prepared to defend, prepared to go on offense, prepared to restart at a moment's notice with whatever target package would be needed in order to ensure that Iran complies. As far as the Strait, you saw the initial agreement that was struck, which is Iran's letting ships go through. So they'll be that will be happening. They will be sailing, and ultimately, as the president, I mean, we've done an incredible job militarily inside the Strait of Hormuz. What Admiral Cooper, I failed to mention Admiral Cooper's name. He's done a phenomenal job along with everybody at AFCENT and NAVCENT and ARCENT and all the components down there, laying the groundwork for Iran. Iran doesn't have the same ability to defend it the way they did before, and so as the president has pointed out to the rest of the world, we barely get any of our energy out of the Strait. Just a tiny fraction. It's time for the rest of the world to step up and ensure that that stays open after President Trump and the War Department brought Iran to the place where they are voluntarily opening it right now, as was announced last night.
Iran's Navy destroyed the defense industrial base, annihilated the nuclear weapon ambitions, denied, all three objectives being accomplished in 38 days since February 28th. All achieved as laid out by the President of the United States, the Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Dan Raisin-Kane, and of course, Secretary of War Pete Hegseth. But it could not have been done without heroic people. We've lost 13 in the process. And across the whole of the military apparatus here at home in America and abroad, these brave souls have endured impossible, well, near impossible because they achieved it, but heroic missions, including reiterating the historic mission to save the pilot, Dude 44, over the course of the Easter weekend with cut number 26 and General Kane.
Also want to quickly revisit the rescue of the Air Force fighter crew over the weekend. To give you an update, we've had, the Secretary and I have had the profound honor of speaking directly with many of the warfighters on that mission, from the downed crew that were picked up to those forces that went them, got them. Hearing these stories firsthand has only deepened our appreciation for their tenacity, creativity, courage, and grit of the American Joint Force. This is a story that gets to the very heart and soul of who we are as a joint force, who we are as Americans. Selfless sacrifice in service of others. From the backseater, Dude 44 Bravo, whose pure and unadulterated joy at seeing those helicopters come into the valley to get his front seater in daylight because he knew the front seater did not have a jacket, and was so filled with heart-leaping joy at his front seater getting picked up, to the nighttime folks that went in and then got him, to the tanker forces that did the things that they had to do to give their own gas away, to the support packages, to those that went into the desert landing site not once, not twice, but 3 times as we fought through multiple contingencies. This was and is a joint force that has the guts to try, that does not quit, and who each and every day does the things that we must to dare to win. No lives were lost. We succeeded because the joint force is always at the ready. They trust each other, they trust their leaders, and they trust their training. And they remember first, foremost, and always that we do these things so that others may live, and we will never leave anyone behind. The success of Operation Fury thus far, and we hope it remains, culminates with this incredible rescue over the weekend, a direct example of the professionalism and courage of the United States military and our joint force. It's the service members on the front lines, our partners in the region, our teammates in the intelligence community, our civilian leaders in the OSW side of the house, the American workers who build the tools and weapons that we use, and the American people who back us up that help us to go do these things. I stand here humbled today, but frankly not surprised by what the Joint Force has been able to do. Their performance is fueled by a deep commitment to each other, their mission, and to our country. It is an incredible, deep honor for me to be a part of this Joint Force, and I'm humbled by the service and sacrifice each and every day that I am lucky enough to see.
Operation Epic Fury by the numbers. A proud secretary, a proud general, a proud president of the United States. 13,000 plus Iranian targets struck, 155 plus Iranian ships destroyed. 90% of Iran's weapons facilities have been struck, and 80% of Iran's nuclear industrial base struck. And it's just beginning if the Iranian regime does not lay down its arms, if they don't agree to the terms ultimately of the ceasefire in place right now after 38 days. We are now on day 39 as we continue to break down the gritty nature of war and the unknowns that these heroes go into. And cut number 27, this is Iran, a very mountainous region, very different warfare than troops have faced in the past. But regardless, they are doing so with incredible bravery.
I've laid out the statistics, but it does not truly capture the nature of combat. This is gritty and unforgiving business. It's chaotic, it's hot, it's dark, it's unpredictable, and there's always unknowns. And our people proudly walked into those unknowns and continue forward. And through it all, the Joint Force has demonstrated the unwavering resolve that the nation demands of us. We are a mission-focused force, and our objectives always is to create the conditions for peace, and today we have, while be ready should that peace break, which we hope it is not. And we remain ready.
General Kane, the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, continuing on Operation Epic Fury, these objectives I outlined earlier with cut number 28, dating back to February 28th.
On February 28th, the President of the United States ordered the Joint Force to execute Operation Epic Fury with the direction to accomplish three distinct military objectives: destroy Iran's ballistic missile and drone capabilities, destroy the Iranian Navy, and destroy their defense industrial base to ensure that Iran cannot reconstitute the ability to project power outside their borders. Over the course of 38 days of major combat operation, the Joint Force achieved the military objectives as defined by the President. We welcome the ongoing ceasefire, and as the Secretary said, we hope that Iran chooses a lasting peace. But as Secretary Hegseth said, let us be clear, a ceasefire is a pause, and the Joint Force remains ready if ordered or called upon to resume combat operations with the same speed and precision as we've demonstrated over the last 38 days, and we hope that that is not the case. I want to congratulate and thank the leadership today at U.S. Central Command, including the Commander Admiral Brad Cooper, the Deputy Commander Lieutenant General Kevin Leahy, the Senior Enlisted Leader Fleet Master Chief Compton, and every one of the component commanders, senior enlisted leaders, and especially the staff down at U.S. Central Command, who does not get called out for any of the credit, but grinds 24/7 to help offer the options that we bring to the Secretary and the President. I also want to highlight the forces in the United States European Command under the command of Alexis Grinkowicz, who protected the western flank in support of CENTCOM. And I want to thank our partners across the intelligence community. Our ability to see and understand what an adversary is doing help us to be as decisive as we must be on the battlefield. And that includes DIA, NSA, NGA, the CIA, and the National Reconnaissance Office, and others. I want to thank the other combatant commands who have thus far contributed along the way to U.S. Central Command. This includes Transcom, Stratcom, Spacecom, SOCOM, and Cybercom, all of whom poured all in support of CENTCOM's efforts. And I want to thank, as the Secretary did, our Gulf partners who fought alongside each and every one of us every day. From the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, the UAE, Bahrain, Qatar, Kuwait, and Jordan, all who joined us together to defend and protect our people and our assets, and who, if required, stand ready to do so again. And I want to thank my team at the Joint Staff who work literally around the clock in order to help me offer the options that I must with the associated risks to the Secretary and to the President. They are the hardest working people that I know, and I am deeply grateful for their service. Most importantly today, I want to thank America's members of the Joint Force who've poured everything that they can into Operation Epic Fury, and their families who've worked 24 hours a day for 38 days. The Secretary and I could not be more proud of each and every one of you. And we deeply appreciate the support of the American people, who we know always have us in our thoughts and prayers. And we can feel this literally every single day.
Secretary of War Pete Hegseth proud of the troops with cut number 49 or 29.
To the warriors of Epic Fury, I say well done. You're the backbone of our country. Your skill, your bravery, and sheer guts and grit showed the world what America is all about. I'm proud of you. We're proud of you. President is proud of you. Job well done. But stay vigilant and stay ready. To the families of our fallen, your sacrifice was in service of a historic cause, and we will always remember your heroes, our heroes. We will continue to honor them. And to our Israeli allies, thank you for being a brave, capable, and willing ally on this battlefield. The rest of the world and the rest of our so-called allies saw what real capabilities look like. They should take some notes. Our troops, our American warriors, deserve the credit for this day. But God deserves all the glory. Tens of thousands of sorties, refuelings, and strikes carried out under the protection of divine providence. A massive effort with miraculous protection. Dude 44 Bravo spoke for all of us. God is good.
With the praise going throughout the Department of War, Secretary Hegseth and also General Kane explaining the Iran attacks over the last 47 years, a near half-century of terror coming to an end as detailed by Bronze Star recipient and Secretary of War Pete Hegseth.
Decades, Iran killed Americans with roadside bombs in Iraq, using cowardly proxies to do their dirty work while they hid safely in Tehran. They struck our embassies with car bombs and attacked from the shadows, never daring to face us toe-to-toe. They thought they could bleed America with impunity. Well, they just learned the hard way what happens when you try to fight us directly. And even when they got lucky, one time in 40 days, and down 2 of our pilots, they couldn't hold them. In a daring 14-hour rescue operation, 7 hours in daylight and 7 hours of night, both pilots were recovered safely. Not once, but twice. A daylight thunder run right up the middle of their country. Boots on the ground. A midnight raid right up the middle of their country. Boots on the ground. 0 American casualties. The Iranians humiliated and demoralized. We control their fate, not the other way around. That's why they came to the table. Iran's defeat is America's retribution for every American lost to Iranian terror, especially those brave troops killed by Iranian-made roadside bombs in Iraq that my generation knows so well, and for the suffering their regime has inflicted around the world. Now we have a chance at real peace and a real deal. The War Department, for now, has done its part. We stand ready in the background to ensure Iran upholds every reasonable term. And as everyone knows, nobody makes a better deal than President Trump.
As the War Department stands ready for diplomacy and mercy, the Secretary clear on President Trump's path to choose mercy in the midst of war with cut number 31.
President Trump had the power to cripple Iran's entire economy in minutes, but he chose mercy. He spared those targets because Iran accepted the ceasefire under overwhelming pressure. The new Iranian regime understood that a deal was far better than the fate that awaited them. This new regime just happened to look at what happened to their predecessors. Their top leadership was systematically eliminated. The previous Iranian supreme leader, dead. The Supreme National Security Council Secretary, dead. The Supreme Leader Office Advisor, dead. The Supreme Leader Military Office Chief, dead. The Defense Minister, no longer with us. The IRGC Commander, dead. The Armed Forces General Staff Commander, dead. The Intelligence Minister, dead. The IRGC Navy Commander, no longer here. The IRGC Intel Chief, dead. I skipped over a bunch, and I could go on and on and on, to include the new so-called new Supreme Leader wounded and disfigured. This new regime was out of options and out of time, so they cut a deal. They know this agreement means that they will never, ever possess a nuclear weapon. Under the terms, any nuclear material they should have will be removed. Any material, they should not have will be removed. Right now, their dust is deeply buried and watched 24/7 overhead. The president has been clear from the beginning, there will be no Iranian nuclear weapons. Period. Full stop. Other presidents said it. President Trump did it. Operation Epic Fury. Less than 6 weeks, clear mission, decisive action, overwhelming firepower, America first, a historic battlefield victory.
Iran's Navy is at the bottom of the sea as we detail these operations with cut number 32.
Iran's Navy is at the bottom of the sea, whether it's the Soleimani class, their frigate class, their prized drone aircraft carriers, submarines, mine layers, sunk. Iran's Air Force has been wiped out. Iran no longer has an air defense, any sort of a comprehensive air defense system. We own their skies. Their missile program is functionally destroyed. Launchers, production facilities, and existing stockpiles depleted and decimated. And almost completely ineffective. Iran shot hundreds and hundreds of missiles and one-way attack drones at our aircraft carrier. They were obsessed with it, and they never got even close. Every single one of those shots easily shot down miles and miles away from the Abe Lincoln. They were blowing ammo into Fantasyland. Contrast that with, most significantly, in last night's wave of more than 800 strikes, we finished completely destroying Iran's defense industrial base, a core pillar of our mission objective. What little they have left buried in bunkers is all they will have. They can still shoot, we know that. Their command and control is so decimated they can't really talk and coordinate, so they still may shoot here and there, but that would be very, very unwise. But they can no longer build missiles, build rockets, build launchers, or build UAVs. Their factories have been razed to the ground, set back in historic fashion. You see, had Iran refused our terms, the next targets would have been their power plants, their bridges, and oil and energy infrastructure. Targets they could not defend and could not realistically rebuild. It would have taken them decades, and we were locked and loaded. They couldn't defend against it.
And the history of Iran, a very violent regime, nearly 50 years in the making. Secretary of War outlining what we're up against with cut number 33.
Iran has been a threat to the United States and the free world for 47 years. Chants of death to America, targeting our people, killing Americans, lying and blackmailing their way toward a nuclear weapon, so they thought. No longer. Not on our watch. Other presidents marked time and kicked the can down the road. President Trump made history. From the strike that took out Qasem Soleimani, to tearing up the disastrous Obama-Iran deal, to the precision campaign that obliterated Iran's nuclear sites in Operation Midnight Hammer, to the decisive military victory we just achieved in Operation Epic Fury. No other president has shown the courage and resolve of this commander-in-chief. President Trump forged this moment. Iran begged for this ceasefire, and we all know it. As the President truth this morning, a big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Operation Epic Fury was a historic and overwhelming victory on the battlefield. A capital V military victory. By any measure, Epic Fury decimated Iran's military and rendered it combat ineffective for years to come. You see, in less than 40 days, one of our combatant commands, Central Command, CENTCOM, using less than 10% of America's total combat power, dismantled one of the world's largest militaries. The world's leading state sponsor of terrorism proved utterly incapable of defending itself, its people, or its territory. We untied just a fraction of our strength, and Iran suffered a devastating military defeat. Together with our Israeli partners, America's military achieved every single objective, on plan, on schedule, exactly as laid out from day one.
The president sharing on Truth Social that a country supplying military weapons to Iran will be immediately tariffed on any and all goods sold to the United States of America. 50% effective immediately. There will be no exclusions or exemptions as of yesterday morning. They're signed by the president. Also, many of the 15 points being agreed to as President Trump taking to Truth Social on those very details that the United States will work closely with Iran, which we have determined has gone through what will be a very productive regime change. There will be no enrichment of uranium, and the United States will, working with Iran, dig up, remove all of the deeply buried B-2 bombers, the nuclear dust. It is now and has been under very exacting satellite surveillance, the Space Force, and nothing has been touched from the date of attack. We are and will be talking tariff and sanctions relief with Iran. Many of the 15 points have already been agreed to. Thank you for your attention to this matter. As Secretary Pete Hegseth mentioning, this is a big day for world peace, and the president stating that on Truth Social with Cut 36. A big day for world peace. Iran wants it to happen. They've had enough. Likewise, so has everyone else. The United States of America will be helping with the traffic build-up in the Strait of Hormuz. There will be lots of positive action and big money will be made. Iran can start the reconstruction process, and we'll be loading all of those supplies of all kinds, just hanging around in order to make sure that everything goes well. I feel confident that it will, and what we're experiencing in the United States, this could be a golden era of the Middle East. They're signed by the president as sometimes the dumb questions coming across the channels with certain media outlets, and there's no denial there with cut number 37 as acting Attorney General Todd Blanche on the job over the last week, dealing with the dumb questions that every once in a while comes from the press corps.
You said earlier that this Department of Justice has indicted President Trump 4 times. Can you explain what you base that statement on? Because obviously you now run this department. Are you basing that on your experience as a defense lawyer for the president, or are you basing that
I read it in what you wrote. What is that? What kind of question is that? He got indicted 4 times. He got indicted in Florida, and then he got indicted in D.C., and then they superseded in Florida, and then they superseded in D.C. So that's 1, 2, 3, 4. So that's not, am I breaking news there, that he got indicted 4 times by the feds? This department indicted him 4 times.
On a serious note, this department focused on Angel moms securing the border in intergovernmental cooperation. It's been on the hearts and the minds of the cabinet since day one of January 20th, 2025, coming into office to secure the homeland. Agnes Gibney detailing her family lost to illegal aliens committing abhorrent crimes.
My name is Agnes Gibney. I am here to speak about my only son, Ronald da Silva. Ronald was 29 years old when he was murdered. He had a smile that would light up a room. He was caring, compassionate, and full of life. This is my son. He loved working on cars. He had a natural gift for it. He loved animals so much that one day he brought a baby crow to my house and said, "Please take care of it, don't let it die." He was funny, always playing pranks, and his laughter filled our home and gave the kind of bear hugs a mother never forgets. He was also a loving father to 2 young boys. Something that the media often forgets is the children left behind by those that were killed by illegal aliens, called true family separation. My family changed forever. My life changed forever on April in 2002. My son was standing on a friend's driveway when he was shot. He was taken to the hospital where he underwent surgery, but the doctors couldn't save him. He bled to death. When I arrived at the hospital, through a window to look at my son's lifeless body, I banged on that window, yelling out his name, "Ronald, please open your eyes. Don't do this to me." I thought it was a well-orchestrated prank, but I was wrong. My son never opened his eyes. He was laying there with his eyes still taped, still intubated, and I was not allowed to hold or touch my son. That moment forever froze in my mind. That image will never leave my mind. And as we approach April 27, it will be the 24th anniversary of my son's death. I can't tell you that the pain has not faded. Every April, that wound gets opened up again, over and over and over again, to the point that I just want to lay next to him. Birthdays, holidays, Mother's Days have never been the same. Not a celebration for me anymore. You see, I buried my son a week before Mother's Day. They are reminders. Those holidays are reminders what was taken from me. I will never heal from this loss. I am here today to honor my son, but also to speak for families like mine, whose lives were changed in an instant and never returned to what they knew before. When I connected with the ICE Voice office, it gave me something I desperately needed. Peace of mind was one. In the middle of fear and confusion, I had someone to call. I had someone that could give me answers to questions that California Department of Corrections wouldn't. And someone who would be there to listen to me. That mattered more to me than I can put into words, and it still does, and I still refer other families to Voice because I know the value of the office, because I truly believe in it. But I need to say this clearly. For us, Angel families, this is not politics. This is not something that fades with time. This is personal, and the pain is forever. It will never be erased. And I want to say, I love ICE. I love ice in my water. I love ice in my drink. I love ice on the streets to protect us all. God bless the men and women of ICE and the Office of Voice. God bless our president, who's doing everything to keep us safe, and DHS, Tom Homan, and all of you. Thank you. And God bless the United States of America. I am a legal immigrant from Hungary, and I find it very offensive that my country gives sanctuary to criminals and not families like mine who follow the law.
A very poignant statement throughout her speech. Agnes Gibney, especially at the end, a legal immigrant from Hungary, watching her adopted nation where it's one party, the Democrat Party, that wants open borders, that wants total control, that could care less about the scourge against the angel families. No parent should ever lose a child, but especially to illegal alien crime. That's 100% preventable if the laws are followed and enforced. This administration working towards that, as nearly 3 million criminal illegal aliens having been deported since the beginning of the second term. The president has been clear on the war objectives with text, video, and his statements in the most transparent administration in history, and cut number 40 detailing all of those successes and the president speaking on these objectives.
As I stated in my announcement of Operation Epic Fury, our objectives are very simple and clear. We are systematically dismantling the regime's ability to threaten America or project power outside of their borders. That means eliminating Iran's Navy, which is now absolutely destroyed, hurting their Air Force and their missile program at levels never seen before, and annihilating their defense industrial base. We've done all of it. Their Navy is gone. Their Air Force is gone. Their missiles are just about used up or beaten. Taken together, these actions will cripple Iran military, crush their ability to support terrorist proxies, and deny them the ability to build a nuclear bomb. Our armed forces have been extraordinary. There's never been anything like it militarily. Everyone is talking about it.
The president should not be underestimated. Reminded of that just yesterday with the press secretary, Caroline Leavitt, stating that during her briefing.
The Iranians originally put forward a 10-point plan that was fundamentally unserious, unacceptable, and completely discarded. It was literally thrown in the garbage by President Trump and his negotiating team. Many outlets in this room have falsely reported on that plan as being acceptable to the United States, and that is false. With the president's deadline fast approaching and the United States military completely decimating Iran with each passing hour, the regime acknowledged reality to the negotiating team. They put forward a more reasonable and entirely different and condensed plan to the president and his team. President Trump and the team determined the new modified plan was a workable basis on which to negotiate and to align it with our own 15-point proposal. The president's red lines, namely the end of Iranian enrichment in Iran, have not changed. And the idea that President Trump would ever accept an Iranian wish list as a deal is completely absurd. The president will only make a deal that serves in the best interests of the United States of America, and he as a negotiating team will focus on this effort over the next 2 weeks, so long as the Strait of Hormuz remains open with no limitations or delays. These extraordinarily sensitive and complex negotiations will take place behind closed doors over the course of the next 2 weeks. I would strongly advise the media against running with narratives that have no basis in fact. What Iran says publicly or feeds to all of you in the press is much different than what they communicate to the United States, the president, and his team privately. Never underestimate President Trump's ability to successfully advance America's interests and broker peace. President Trump has a proven track record of achieving good deals on behalf of the United States and the American people, and he will only accept one that puts America first.
This day in history, April 9th of 1865, the surrender at Appomattox Courthouse, and ultimately The Civil War coming to an end after 4 years of war, Confederate General Robert E. Lee surrendered the Army of Northern Virginia to Union Lieutenant General Ulysses S. Grant at the village of Appomattox Courthouse in the Commonwealth of Virginia, signaling the imminent collapse of the Confederacy and its rebellion. After abandoning fortifications at Petersburg and Richmond on the 3rd of April in 1865, General Lee retreated west along the Appomattox River in a desperate attempt to escape encirclement by the Union armies of the Potomac, James, and the Shenandoah. Now, Lee intended to join forces of the rebel army commanded by General Joseph E. Johnston in North Carolina, but Lieutenant General Grant's relentless pursuit forced Lee into a 4-day running battle, which hastened the disintegration of Lee's army. Now, the Confederates were trapped after Union Major General Philip Sheridan led his men on a forced march back along to take a blocking position athwart Lee's line of retreat at Appomattox Courthouse. In this famed historical documentation, on the morning of April 9th of 1865, Lee determined to make one last attempt to escape the closing Union pincers and reach the supplies located at Lynchburg, Virginia. But at dawn, the remnants of Lieutenant General John B. Gordon's Infantry Corps and Major General Fitzhugh Lee's Cavalry Division formed that line of battle. And although their advance initially gained some ground, the arrival of those U.S. reinforcements stopped the rebel advance and ended the last Civil War battle fought in Virginia. Surrounded on all three sides and nearly out of provisions and supplies, Lee sent Grant a message under a flag of truce, requesting to meet and discuss terms for ending the bloodshed. Now, they met in the parlor of Wilmer McLean, who at the twist of fate had lived on the Bull Run battlefield and had been present for the Civil War's first pitched engagement in the village of Appomattox Courthouse, where Lee surrendered his army under Grant's lenient terms. And many people think that actually is a courthouse, but it is the village of Appomattox Courthouse in the Commonwealth, a significantly famous day in American history. In April, every date having significant moments throughout war history, military history, to this date as we approach 250 years of freedom to dismantle and ultimately destroy the world's #1 threat of sponsored terrorism around the world as it comes weakening to its knees. Thank you for that excerpt from the U.S. Army Center of Military History as we honor the life and legacy of two of the most famed and incredible generals, Ulysses S. Grant, who became the 18th President of the United States, and the memory of Robert E. Lee, whose plantation now serves as one of the most storied and famed cemeteries in all of human history, where two presidents lay at rest, and where you can celebrate the countless brave souls who have laid down their lives for you so that we may have freedom now 250 years into this great nation of ours. As we cover the latest from the Trump White House here on Right Side Broadcasting Network, and remember the lives resting at Arlington, we are grateful for you, the viewers here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, where you can support us financially. We're the new media. We're not a big corporate outlet, and we want to simply bring you unbridled access to your 45th, 47th President of the United States, the 50th Vice President, the 119th Congress, and the 2026 midterms. RSBNetwork.com/donate. All viewer supported. You may also send a check or money order to 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344. It's the loveliest village on the plains, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Again, that's 1550 Opelika Road, Suite 6, Box 344, Auburn, Alabama, 36830. Thank you for supporting us on the right side of history as we bring you all of the details, all of the facts. We don't cut the press conferences, we don't cut the speeches, just bring them to you in real time and on replay so that you can make up your mind at home. rsbnetwork.com/donate. Also, thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN, the warehouse moving sale. You might be in the middle of a move right now. Save up to 80%, a big 80, with promo code RSBN. Call today. Do not delay. 800-836-7566. Mr. Mike Lindell, candidate for governor of Minnesota, also the great CEO of this fine mypillow.com/RSBN, where everything's made up there in Minnesota. Made in America, including the free and fair trade partnerships of My Coffee. You could smell the coffee beans through the bag, and there's our favorite guy right there, the American flag, the Bill of Rights, fighting for election integrity, fighting for the First Amendment. So support Mike Lindell and his endeavors at mypillow.com/RSBN. 2,000 different options to choose from, including that My Coffee to My Slippers, My Pillows 1.0, 2.0, and those Giza Dream Sheets from the Mediterranean, but again, made here in the good old U.S. of A. Thank you to Mike Lindell, and thank you to mypillow.com/RSBN. We are grateful for you in nearly 2.5+ hours of coverage of today's news, yesterday's news, what's happening inside and outside of the Beltway, and now day 39 underway, Operation Epic Fury, currently in a ceasefire. The Vice President of the United States heading to Islamabad, Pakistan, with Jared Kushner and Special Envoy Steve Witkoff, including a negotiation team that has been led by Secretary of State Marco Rubio, tackling countless different items domestically and abroad, as this administration truly is the most transparent in American history as we approach 250 years of glory. In the golden era, the president stating that not only for America, but for the Iranian people as well, we can have that golden era exist. So don't be a panicking. There is hope and optimism at the end of the tunnel. Most of all, God be with our troops. We love them, we pray for them, and we hope they have safety. And we will never forget the 13 who have laid down their lives thus far in this operation to ultimately bring freedom not only to America, but the Middle East, and, God willing, the whole of the Iranian people and the Persian culture. For all of my colleagues here at Right Side Broadcasting Network, we will be with you tomorrow unless there's breaking news this afternoon into the evening. Until then, be good. God bless you. Catch some of round 1 of the Masters from Augusta, Georgia as well. A tradition unlike any other. One of my favorites that rolls around during this April spring time. Again, for all my colleagues at Right Side Broadcasting Network, I'm Robert McNeely. Thank you for joining us today at 4:40. Have a wonderful afternoon and evening. May God bless you. We'll see you again very soon.